All right. So yesterday I want to take you through a couple, just a tiny bit of a review because you were both on yesterday. Yesterday we started our introduction to color, which was very exciting to me. And we talked about just the basics, like the definition of color and how we use color organized on a color wheel, um, kind of the scientific basis of how we interpret color, just a little bit, because, I am an art teacher, not a science teacher. But we did all that. We talked about its place within the art elements and so on. And then also we looked at Takashi Murakami. And throughout the day, I had students who had seen his artwork before or had heard of him. And I just thought that was so awesome. And sometimes when I talk about things over and over throughout the course of the day, I get, I wouldn't say I get sick of it because I really like art, obviously, but it gets a little bit much. But I did not get sick of talking about Takashi yesterday. He is a fascinating guy, and I really enjoyed seeing how students reacted to him yesterday. So that was a lot of fun. And then this morning when I came in and I opened up my YouTube to do something, my account, I got all of these notifications and videos and things that are like, hey, check out this interview and check out this video about him. So like there's a lot out there. And if you have any interest in Takashi Murakami or his artwork, you can find it on the internet. Like, I mean, obviously you knew that, but I would encourage you to look for it because I found a lot of really cool stuff. So that's what we looked at yesterday, that whole idea of pop art and low art becoming high art or common subjects. And that was pretty fun to look at. So we're kind of picking up that same thread today because when we get into today's artist, you're going to see that Adam Hillman is in a lot of ways kind of similar to the same spirit that Takashi Murakami brings to his artwork. So looking at today's schedule, we're going to get more into that with color. I'm going to introduce the two classwork pieces for today. That's due like today, end of day. But you could kind of push some of that into tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow is a no check-in in the morning day because I will not be here, but only for this class. And Thursday is an important check-in day or important attendance day because I'm going to be going over all the artworks. Okay. Anybody have any quick questions before we start getting into the lesson for today? Okay, great. So looking at today's slide, oh, wait, what? Well, you guys don't need to know this directly, but I wanted you to notice on the front week slide, I did post the lesson from yesterday, which is something I'll be doing, every day. I had posted it on the day slide, but I decided to put it on the week slide in the front because my daily slides are getting like super loaded up. So I'm putting that on the front for you. Okay, so today I wanted to introduce to you this artist named Adam Hillman. I've seen artists like this before, but then this guy really caught my attention for two reasons. First of all, do you remember me talking about how I like to organize my crayons and stuff yesterday? This guy literally takes pictures of crayons organized. That caught my attention. And he takes pictures of food, which is also pretty compelling. Not only does he take these pictures, but like they're amazing. They're really awesome. So I want to show you some examples. And also I have a video of him working and then also a short one of him talking about his work. And also, I think it's a little surprising and very exciting who this guy is. He's not a 50-year-old Japanese guy, even though that's also kind of exciting to me that, contemporary artists in their late 50s are making art that connects to people all over the world of all ages. Adam Hillman is in his 20s, like his early 20s. He's barely older than you guys. And when he started making these particular artworks, he was 17. That's like the same age as some of you guys. So that's really exciting to me too. So let's start by, what's this one? Okay, good. Oh, yep, there we go. So this is an article written about him, okay? Actually, let's not start with that. Let's not start with that. Okay. This is what happens when I change my mind for the fifth time today. Okay, so now I'm going through here. Oh, no, I didn't want that one either. This is the one I want. I'm getting a nice little glimpse. Okay, so here is Adam's shop. He doesn't have a website because, you know, he's too young and hip, I guess. He has Instagram, which I'm going to show you next. And that's where all his artwork is, except for this, which is where he sells his artwork. So you can come to this artwork, this art site, and purchase prints of his artwork, because his art happens like in real life. He photographs it, and then you might start to guess it's like perishable because he takes pictures of food. So what's really fascinating about his artwork is that it's, in a sense, temporary, like very temporary, because you can't preserve these things, and that's part of its charm isn't the right word. I can make a really funny joke here. It's part of its appeal. Oh God, that was so good. Okay, so it's part of his appeal is that you can take these photographs and the product is decaying as we speak. So I wanted you to notice something. So like, take a look at this artwork. A small print, 8x8, is $30. Doesn't seem too bad. Like if you wanted to start investing in your art collection and you really liked these, you could get a genuine art print, which is a print of his photograph, for $30. That's not too bad. 8x8 is pretty small. You know, it's like this square. And he can print, I don't know, it doesn't say here if it's a limited series or not. So, you know, that's reasonable. This, if you got it large, is closer to 50. So he's making like a fair amount of money. It's not bad. But it's also not unreasonable as far as prices to purchase. I thought you might be interested in that, especially since yesterday we were looking at ones by Takashi Murakami, and they were like in the thousands. Okay. All right. So let's go back to his Instagram. I want to show you his Instagram. So give me a second here. I got to do a whole bunch of stuff. It resets every time. So now I've got to search for him again. So give me 1 second. And you might want to go to Instagram yourself to check this guy out. So here he is. His little description there says object arranger. I like that. All original images. So when I show these to you, feel free to be completely amazed. He cuts, peels, arranges. Like that's the hugest part of this. These are much better pictures than the one on that site. Everything is very deliberate and precise. Color and precision are just so important. So a lot of his images are food, but not all of them. He uses non-food materials in a lot of cases. Oops. Trying to, oh, I thought that was a swipey, sorry. This one was fascinating. I hadn't seen these until today. He said, some of my see-through pieces. What? So he's lining up this piece of toast with wood grain. I just cannot get over this. This one is like this crazy background, and then he put down like pizza bread and little chunks of shredded cheese and olives. That's insane. Here's another one with pins. Like I can't even comprehend how precise that is. So when I show you the video next, it does not appear to me that he uses any glue. So clearly this man is working in a house with no cats. because you cannot do that. Oh, this is great because you should have hopefully noticed that all the work so far is taken from bird's eye view, which means straight down with no angle whatsoever, no keystoning, which means like it's slightly out of straight down. And then this one, because of the way that the metal is going to shine and everything, there is one from an angle. So he only does that if it's like super important, like this one too, because the dice in order to show the sides was taken at an angle as well. So it's very fascinating to me, especially given our knowledge of digital apps and media, that he does not do any altering in Photoshop or any other program, because it would be pretty, it seems like naturally that's what's happening, that he's highlighting certain parts of the photograph and altering them like color or value, but that's literally not any part of what's happening. It's all being done by his choices in arrangement and subject. So like this is a fantastic illusion created by his arrangement and his manipulation of his subjects and even the light, the perspective. Here's a little animation, which I think is so great. A little stop motion. Fantastic. So it is really impressive. It shows a lot of control. What reaction do you two have to this? What reaction do you have when you're looking at this? Look at that. No reaction whatsoever?
They all look like they took a really long time.
Marissa, I agree. Can you imagine? Look at those paper clips that are arranged in groups of 3, except where they're literally cut probably with like wire cutters or little snippers. It's astounding, isn't it?
Yeah. If these aren't glued down,
Does it make you feel like it's something you would compel you to do something like that, or do you look at it and you're like, I like looking at that, but oh my gosh, no. Or some people might even be a little bit put off by how precise it is. Like they don't like that kind of precision. Look at these. So he definitely has a lot of really interesting ideas about color and pattern and shape. Is anybody offended? I wondered if anybody would be offended by the way that he's using food for his subjects, because it's not going to be preserved, obviously. You know, this is going to be ditched. Anybody have any feelings on that?
that's got to be a lot of food to eat. Like, if he just like eats it afterwards, because like, what else are you supposed to do?
Didn't
He
read
just
about
like,
whether he eats it. My guess is that he, because it's been sitting out a long time. He's had his hands all over it. My guess is he doesn't, but I don't know that for sure. So I could look that up. Oh no, I do have that on my list. What happens after? Okay, so watch these little videos. This one's like a time lapse. It's super short. Also, I don't know why I keep, oh shoot, because I touched it. We can play it again because I screwed it up. So here is a time lapse of him working with Q-tips and paper clips. So you can see he's using rulers to get his angles and to create a hard edge, but I don't see any glue. I don't know if there is glue, but I don't see any.
I feel like if I ever try to do this, I would not glue it down and then I would knock it over it once I finished
Yeah.
and
Well,
be really mad.
like I said, he clearly does not own a cat. 'Cause there's no way you could do that with a cat. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch that again. So the other thing is that I think that like there are other artists who make temporary is one way of putting it. But like the artwork itself is not meant to endure forever. Like you know, some artists paint things or draw things or even sculpture, and it's intended to be like, there, I'm done. I'm gonna hang this, or if they're famous, this is going to my gallery or whatever, and it's preserved forever. He's not making artworks like that. He's making artworks that are definitely intended to be temporary, photographed, and then they're gone, and that's okay. Like that's part of his thing, right? That's different than some most other artwork. So I have this one. This one shows and has him talking. Now, earlier the audio was like really not synced, but I mean, we can deal with it. That's-
I was originally making really very detailed abstract paintings and drawings, but after I got into kind of a plateau with creativity, I found photography when I got a smartphone and I started taking photos of everyday things around me. I've heard a lot that they enjoy the order and that it appeals to their love of things being in the order that they consider to be perfect. I think that for me, just the idea of doing something that's unique and that isn't necessarily easily categorized is very appealing.
I think that's cute. A little insight there. He doesn't. That was just a snippet. I liked that it showed who he was. This article here that I found gives a little bit more insight into what's behind his ideas. Uh, Initially, he's talking about how he's using everyday objects, which is kind of one of those big ideas in pop art, which I brought up a couple times now, including yesterday when I was talking about Takashi and how using some of the traditional subject matter of Japanese art, like flowers, and making stuff that was like considered in the Japanese culture would consider like museum worthy, even though it was like low art and just kind of ordinary subjects. So he's kind of picking up on that same idea that even though he's just using, cut up fruit or candy or Q-tips, he's still making art out of everyday objects. So as we go on, they make a big point in this about how he's creating the illusion that it could have been digitally manipulated, but he doesn't do that. So then it goes into saying that the overall ideas of his work are largely unchanged over the years, but he keeps pushing himself in new directions, which is something also I talked about yesterday with both Picasso and Takashi Murakami. So that's another thing that we want to just keep reminding ourselves as artists is that, especially young artists, which, which you are and which Adam Hillman is that as you are sort of exploring ideas and techniques and things, don't be afraid to take these jumps and kind of experiment, because you're developing as an artist, and that's kind of how it should be, right? So he's talking about that. He's talking about how I focus a lot on color contrast and gradient, which is that sort of change and progression from like a dark color to a light color. And then he talks about how he's, cutting pieces and things like that, and building composition. So that's a huge part of his work, is not only color and the gradient from light to dark, but also how you arrange that. And everything is deliberate. I think you can get that idea. He's not cutting up apples and oranges and just throwing them down and taking a picture. Every piece is placed very deliberately, which has a huge impact, as you can see. Not all his pieces are symmetrical. In fact, like, because you're looking at this one, you can see, but it's very balanced and very kind of purposeful. This one is closer to symmetrical, but it's not still quite, but it has some symmetrical elements to it, and it feels really balanced. This one I find mesmerizing. I don't know why. It's just mesmerizing to me. I think that the textures in it, the tiny eggs, I don't even know. It can't be an egg. I don't know what that is, like a skittle or something, but there's a lot about this one I find mesmerizing. The textures, the values, the little interlocking pieces. It's just, it's amazing. Then I'll show you this is my second favorite one. I don't know what would compel anyone to think of an idea of cutting puzzle pieces out of broccoli. Like, that's crazy. That is crazy. And how hard that must be to cut puzzle pieces out of these things. That's so creative and insane. And you see how it progresses from dark to light? Do your squint job on this. You're squinting, and you can see how it progresses from dark to light. So he was cutting pieces, he was squinting, I have no doubt, and figuring that out. It's just so impressive and fun and creative. This one, interestingly, has different depths, like cut into the apple. Also really cool. So he's a creative and interesting guy. I think Marissa's right that it's probably really hard and takes a lot of time and patience. So you may have noticed when I was flipping through stuff earlier that this style, like his style and his approach, is something that you could do this week for an artwork choice. Be inspired by his style, which I would describe as shooting from bird's eye view, harnessing color and value, and carefully arranging your composition. Okay, you are not going to sit down and do something, as intricate and insane as this, or any number of the ones I've shown you. That takes a lot of, growth and so on. Like if you think of the ones I showed you from 4 years ago, he was, putting M&Ms in order and stuff like that. So here's another cutting one that I just cannot. You might think it looks easy to cut chocolate, but it really isn't. When I cut chocolate, like take apart take aside that this looks like Mona Lisa, but you see in the middle where the chocolate's like kind of just like crunchy and broken, that's what it would look like if I tried to cut chocolate into a puzzle piece. But this one's pretty interesting. He did all that deliberately, obviously. Here's Lucky Charms, Starry Night. That's very clever. And The Kiss by Klimt. So he's pretty exciting. I really find him very compelling and interesting. Does anybody have any questions about Adam Hillman? All right, so if we slide back here to our choice board for this week, you can see here in that middle column, the artworks, which I'm going to talk about Thursday at length. The first option and the third option are tied to the artists that I've talked about this week. Okay, so I'm going to go into those more on Thursday, but I just wanted to kind of point those out to you. So today I'm going to go over the classwork options and make sure that I get those all explained to you, show you how to set it up. It's something with a color wheel that I want to show you. And that's what we'll do right now. So the first one is the first option, due today into tomorrow, is to complete a 12-step color wheel, either on paper or digitally. So I was working on this over the break, and I have an example here for you that Emily did, my daughter. Use the full color resource and the downloadable blank one, see ya, to complete your own color wheel. So coloring you can do in pencil, crayon, or even paint if you want to print it at your house and complete that on paper. Or you're going to open it in Fresco, which you download the resource from Schoology and complete it digitally. You're going to use a variety of tints and shades. Oh, wait a minute. Am I looking at the wrong one? Oh, no, sorry. Got confused for a second because there's something else for next week. Use a variety of tints and shades in each hue. Remember that stands for color, to complete each pie shape of color. Control and craftsmanship matters. That means that this is a time actually when your art teacher is saying to you to stay within the lines. And if I open it up and it looks like your 3-year-old brother is the one that filled it in, then that's not going to be okay. Okay, you want to make sure that it does look neat and controlled. So here is what it looks like. I give you the resource of the color wheel with the 12 steps, which is primary, secondary, and tertiary. Now, this one doesn't have the spaces labeled. If you need a little bit more help and assistance on the color wheel front, you can find a lot of resources online that would give you names if that helped. That's the color wheel pattern that I'm supplying you. And here's a finished example on paper with colored pencils. So Emily went through and she colored using my fancy colored pencils, but you don't even need fancy colored pencils. You just need to manipulate them. She made little marks in the corner. If you press lightly, then you can get a lighter tint version. If you press hard, you'll get a darker version. And that's how you might proceed through that. Now, one thing to note about the color wheel is that kind of traditionally, we put red at the top, but that's not a rule. You could put red anywhere. What happens next is the part that's the rule. So if you put red at the bottom, that's fine. Just make sure that what comes next is red, orange, then yellow, orange, then yellow. Okay, so it's the order that matters, not which one is in the top position. So make sure that you get that part right. Next, we have the questions, the reflection questions, and then a page for you to attach them to. Okay, so that is your first choice for classwork this week. So I want to show you in Photoshop, no, Fresco, sorry, my bad, how to go about getting started on this. So I have a canvas. I'm going to go to Photos. I already downloaded it from Schoology, so you would do that. I'm going to open this right up in here. Okay, so here it is on my canvas. If you wanted to, you could enlarge it or whatever, but that's not really that important. Okay, so it's on my own layer, its own layer over here because I inserted it as a photo. You do not want to ever paint or draw on a photo layer. So you're going to start by adding a new layer and moving it underneath this pattern image. I need to see if that's orange. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit more orange. And I'll start with orange, no problem. So I've got my brush, I've got a new layer, I've got orange, and now I'm just going to start coloring orange. Wait a minute, what's wrong? Well, my layer is blocking it, and that's not good. But I want this to be part of the image, so let's see what we can do to fix it. Its layer mode is normal. That means it's not blending at all. We want to put it on multiply because multiply essentially drops out all the white, makes it invisible, and we're left only with the black lines, which is exactly what we want, the line art. So now, gotta tuck this away. When I come down to this layer, I want to make sure I'm on my orange. I can come in and draw and it shows right through. So in order to get some tints and shades, I would move my little orange this way and I can get some tints. And if I move my little orange this way, I can get some shades. Okay, so that's one way digitally of getting your tints and shades of orange. Okay, so now I want to do another layer, and this time I think I will do red. Usually the hue, which is that pure color, is up towards the corner, I've noticed. So red would not be right next to orange on a 12-step color wheel. So here I'm putting in red, then maybe I'll get a tint of red, and bring some of that in. Okay, you see how I'm doing that? Now between them goes red, orange. I don't know if this is right just from eyeballing it, so I'm gonna kind of lay it in there and see. It's not too bad. I'm a little worried about what I thought was orange before. Like maybe it's a little too yellow, but that's the wonderful thing about, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I wonder if I can go back. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, so I screwed up my orange, red orange, so you can use your eyedropper to get that color back. Now I want to go back to my brush. Now I was trying to make like a tint, but I moved it here and I moved it along the outside wheel rather than on the, within the square. I don't think I like my orange that I picked. I think it's way too yellow. So yeah, or maybe it was the tint I didn't like. I don't know. So that's a great thing about Photoshop or Fresco is that you can color over stuff that you don't like, or if I wanted, I could ditch that entire layer. Oh, I made a mistake. Does anybody see it? You should have a new layer for every color. And I put my red and my red orange on the same layer. If you were in school with me and you did that, I would 100% make you start over. So if it was me here, I would start over if I was making a good example. Okay, so do you have any questions about this process right here of opening up, inserting the picture, then you want to make sure that it's set to multiply because normal covers everything up. So you set it to multiply and then you have a good little image to work with and you can draw around under it. Ooh, that must be on top. How fun. Okay, so let's go to the next one. The next one is a photo hunt. Nine color, excellent photos that show a different color in each one. So you're going to plan on taking more than 9 photographs because we all know that some are not going to be good. Some might be out of focus. Some might, when you look at it, be like, it's not very interesting. So these are 3 of my photos that I took before they have been cropped or adjusted. So I took this photo on the left, that's for purple. I took it of my purple lights through a water bottle to make it look better. Then that's bird seed, and I want to concentrate on the black area for my black photo. And then that's a fake succulent, and I'm holding it in my hand, so it's nice and close. Okay, so I went around and I took 9 different colors. Then you need to, well, as you're shooting, you should concentrate on capturing only one color. So other colors might be present in small amounts, but really when someone looks at it, they're like, oh, that's a red photo. Like it should be pretty clear what you're taking a photo of. Then you're going to be cropping them to eliminate distracting background. And I think you should crop to a square so that you can kind of present them like this. Every photo needs to be in clear focus. We don't want any bad photos, just period. So a couple of the ways this would happen is if you don't have adequate light and your photos get blurry that way. Or taking my succulent example, let's say you're sitting on your bed and you're like, oh, I'll take a picture of my dresser because it's got all kinds of stuff on it. So you take a picture of your dresser, which happens to be about 6 feet away from your bed. So you take a picture of your dresser and then you're like, hey, look, a green succulent. And you crop your picture to frame the green succulent. But by the time you've done that from 6 feet away, it's really grainy and blurry and crummy. Don't use that picture. Get up close to your object and take a good picture with good lighting and no zoom. Okay, so I was holding that thing in my hand and took a picture like this. Don't take a picture from 12 feet away and crop it by zooming, which is essentially what you're doing. Okay, and then lastly, be creative. There is rarely a good picture where somebody takes a picture of a flat surface like their math book and it comes out good. Usually pictures of things that have 3 dimensions that are not solid colors or with no texture, those are usually not good photographs. So try to be creative at what you're looking at and how you photograph it. I put labels on mine so you could see it: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, brown, white, or black, white, brown. You don't have to do that. I just was showing you. So when I came in this morning, one of my 9th graders had already done this assignment, and they did not use an app to put all the squares together. They cropped it on their phone and then they put it together in Photoshop. You could totally do that too. So here's an example, and theirs were not blurry. That's just because there's a screenshot in play here. So you can see all the layers with all the photographs on them, and then they're all put together very nicely in this little 9 square. So it looks awesome, and you don't need an app to do it. I don't want anybody feeling like they have to go out and buy an app. After you've done that, then there's the reflection question slide, and then you would just be handing it in. Okay, so what questions do you have about the classwork, which you should be doing today, getting in today or tomorrow? What questions do you have?
Do we have class tomorrow?
No, tomorrow, remember, no check-in tomorrow because I won't be there tomorrow. But Thursday is on a big important artwork day.
Okay.
Tomorrow is a work day because remember, you guys should be working on this stuff, and also back work because the end of the quarter is ahead. Okay. Any questions on this classwork? All right, well, email me if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will see you Thursday.
Bye. Have a good day.